Yeah, that song hypes me up. You know what hypes me up even more? Being here in my hometown, Miami, Florida. Thank you so much. Americans for the Arts, I'm getting goosebumps. Thank you so much for bringing me back home right here to the 305. Who's from South Florida? All right, a lot of hands going up. A lot of hands going up. It is so good to be here with all of you today. You are in for a treat. I first want to once again thank Americans for the Arts for bringing me out here to their conference. I also want to thank Ruby Lopez Harper. You know, it's interesting because you're going to hear me talk a lot about humanizing your brand through social media. You're going to hear me talk a lot about relationships. And I'm here today because Ruby saw me speak now a couple of years ago in Washington, D.C. We connected on social media. And even though we didn't have dialogue on an ongoing basis, just by us being connected and her being able to see what I'm working on, me being able to see the content that she shares, we formed a relationship which led to me coming here. So social media, you know, just to throw it out there, is an extremely powerful medium. I think a lot of folks, when they connect online, they're looking for that instant ROI. They're looking for that connection to instantly turn into something. And you have to keep something in mind. Social media connections, ladies and gentlemen, are like a 401k bank account, essentially. You know, the way I like to compare social media connections is every single person that you meet has value. But initially, when you connect on platforms like Twitter and LinkedIn, you're depositing pennies, nickels, and dimes into that account, which are your followers, they're your connections. Over time, as you give value to those connections, whether it's through the content that you share or sharing their content or just having conversations, that value of the relationship, starts to increase. And over time, when you have a fundraising event that you're working on, when you have a conference like this, at some point or another, like in my case, I have a book that's a bestseller right now, you'll have to cash out, so to speak, and ask those connections for favors or for support. So just kind of keep that in mind. Now, marketing today is defined very much by moments, not by content that you push out, not by sponsored posts. There's a reason why in that opening video that you just saw, I have the Shiggy challenge or the In My Feelings challenge play. Now, how many of you over the last year in your own newsfeed saw someone that you know doing the Shiggy challenge on their Instagram or social media? Let me just kind of break down how this started. The In My Feelings song by Drake was not intended to be one of the best-selling songs of Drake's entire career. It was more of like an afterthought on his latest album. Shiggy, who's an online content creator, an artist, I've had the actual pleasure of sitting down with him and interviewing him. He's a comedian. He's an entertainer. And one night, he decides to just do this dance to the song because he just happened to like it. Now, mind you, Shiggy has millions of followers already on Instagram. So they see him do this dance, the Kiki, do you love me? Are you writing? All that. They see him do this dance. And then his fans start participating in the Shiggy challenge. Drake gets wind that all of a sudden his song is being played all over Spotify and Apple Music, and people are doing this dance. So then Drake decides to make the music video. That music video now is gaining over 1 billion views on YouTube, just because a creator who's an artist got behind it. So imagine in your organizations that you work at or run marketing for, imagine the power that you all have right now. Because there are people in your organizations, whether they're employees, whether they're creatives, whether they're artists themselves, that have reach on social media. And it's up to you to start within your own existing communities and identify who are these individuals that can essentially be our megaphone for us. Now, what I mean by moments, not marketing, is that every single day, there are moments in time happening that are being broadcasted through social media and people are talking about. There's challenges. You know, you see some examples here on the screen. Several years ago, how many of you participated in the ice bucket challenge for ALS research? I know I did. It was really cold to pour a bucket of ice on top of me. You know, there's obviously the Shiggy challenge. You know, most recently over the summer, we had the FaceApp challenge. And you see, what happens with these challenges is these are moments in time where social media users essentially want to look cool. There's a cool factor if you're participating in the challenge that everyone else is doing. There's a cool factor behind it. What does that mean to you as your organization? Well, you can continue to push out corporate-driven marketing content, which you should still do, peppered in with content that humanizes your brand and makes you real and relatable. So as you sit there, maybe write some notes down on what I'm going to explain to you. Social media is the world's best search engine, not Google. Social media is. Because if you want to see what people are speaking about, you can just take a very quick glance on your Facebook news feed, on your Twitter feed, go to Instagram, and you'll see what's happening around the world. You can connect with real people who are posting content happening in real time. So think of social media, once again, as a search engine. As these challenges happen, as these moments in time, as there's trending topics, some, not all, are opportunities for your brand or your organization to swoop in and just have conversations. You see, somewhere along the line of social media marketing, some marketers somewhere, and I like to consider myself pretty OG because I've been doing this now for 11 years, but some thought leaders and gurus along the line said, look, this is the best platform for you to market on. And they're absolutely incorrect. Social media is the best platform to engage and connect and socialize with people on. But the challenge that we all face is that it's noisy. In my book, Then to Marketing, I refer to social media as a giant digital ocean. Because the fact remains, we're all competing against each other for digital attention. See, a lot of brands, a lot of corporations that I speak to, they like, for example, I used to work at Winn-Dixie running social media. They're a supermarket chain based in Jacksonville, here in Florida. The perception at Winn-Dixie is that you're competing with Publix. And that's incorrect. You don't have just one competitor. You're competing with anyone who consumes food, who's every single living, breathing human being, and you're competing with every single person who talks about food on the internet, which are bloggers, they're restaurants, they're influencers, they're creators, they're people going to Chick-fil-A and then talking about their chicken sandwich and not going to Winn-Dixie to buy groceries. See how that works? So social media is noisy AF. Just gonna throw it out there. It really, really is. So your objective is, how do I rise above that digital noise? Now, I've just given you a little appetizer, right, to get the mouth wet before I really get into it. But what I want to do, since we're talking about all things social media, is I want to encourage you to tweet out during this session as well as other sessions throughout the conference. Make sure you're using the conference hashtag NAMPC, NAMC. Make sure you use it. And as long as I'm up here, ladies and gentlemen, please tag me at CarlosGill83. You can also find me on Instagram and Twitter under at CarlosGill83. Now, once again, thank you so much for the organization, Americans for the Arts, Ruby Lopez Harper, once again, for having me out here. Bob read a little bit about my bio, and I just shared with you that I'm from South Florida originally, but one thing that I kind of leave out of my bio, and you see some of the logos here on the screen of the companies I've had the pleasure of working for. One of the things I leave out of my bio, maybe by design, maybe I'm embarrassed by it, but I'll share with all of y'all, since I'm here in my hometown anyways, I started my career not too far from here, selling shoes at Sawgrass Mills after dropping out of high school. And I dropped out of high school, and I realized very early on, being a high school dropout is not sexy. In 2001, it was really hard being a high school dropout. I would argue that nowadays, you can tap into YouTube and learn what they're probably teaching you at Harvard online. But with that being said, when I started my career, I got into finance and banking, lost my job at 25 due to the recession, if you remember those years, 2008. And I turned to social media. Same day I lost my job, November 5th, 2008. And I joined LinkedIn, and I started using LinkedIn just to network. And I met other people just like me that were unemployed. And I became motivated to start up an online job board called Jobs Direct USA. Now, at 25 years old, I'm 36 now. At 25 years old, I didn't know anything about running a business. Even though my parents are serial entrepreneurs, because I didn't go to college to learn how to run a business, I sucked as an entrepreneur back then. But I learned marketing through trial and error. I learned marketing by spamming a lot of people online, just to keep it 100. And it was using LinkedIn. Back then, like the big three of social media was LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. And they were all very much at the ground level. It wasn't like today where every business is on social media or every person has a LinkedIn account. It was still at the ground level. So I used LinkedIn to connect with recruiters, HR managers, anyone that worked in talent acquisition. And little by little, my company started to gain notoriety because we were doing events called pink slip parties that was promoting leveraging social media. Eventually, doing all this goodwill and free work, and I was making very little, if any, money back then, led to me getting hired by Winn-Dixie. Eventually, I got hired by LinkedIn, and now I have the pleasure of saying that I'm an author. But with all that being said, once again, I wanted to put this out there as a testimonial because I know that there are still people in almost the year 2020 that look at social media as like a nice to have and not a must have. But the ship has already sailed, ladies and gentlemen. This is a must have. Whether you're a not-for-profit looking to leverage social media to raise donations or you're a multi-million or multi-billion-dollar corporation, social media is a must-have. Now, the key is not to use social media for marketing, but to actually use social media for listening and for community building, which is why I talk about in my book, The End of Marketing, which, by the way, has already become a bestseller. You can also get a copy after this presentation. It's at the bookstore. I'm going to be doing a signing. Now, the reason why I wrote The End of Marketing is for a couple reasons, actually, pretty selfishly, but I want you to hear me out here. One, there's a lot of bad content in the market nowadays. There's a lot of misinformation that exists from people that claim to be social media gurus and thought leaders, but yet they've never spent a single day in their life working at a corporation running social media. On the flip side, I've worked for very powerful companies as a head of social. I've worked for a social network on the inside in LinkedIn. And I can tell you that once you're on the inside of a social network and a corporation like Winn-Dixie or BMC Software or Save-A-Lot, you start to really realize how fragmented marketing is between advertising, comms, PR, digital, and then social, which oftentimes is an afterthought. And I started doing research in terms of when I sat down to really write them to marketing, I started doing research on where the world is headed. And it's headed towards AI, otherwise known as artificial intelligence, and automation. And I started thinking, okay, so I'm seeing all these commercials for like IBM Watson and Microsoft on TV. Like AI is starting to kind of become a part of just like our lingo and our dialogue. And as I started doing research on where AI is taking us, I came to this conclusion that eventually AI is going to replace all of our jobs. It's pretty scary when you stop and think about it, at least on the marketing side, social media marketing side. Imagine if an AI, artificial intelligence, once again, can crawl Twitter almost like instantly in real time and just respond automatically to anyone mentioning your company, anyone mentioning arts, anyone mentioning combinations of like arts and the city that you're in, or a concert and an artist, and all of a sudden AI can just ping people. Guess what that does? It removes the human element out of marketing and just turns all of us into bots ourselves. But two, what it does is it replaces the need to hire a real person to do those activities. So there goes your social media community manager. Boom, done. Then you have the element of writing content. Right now, I've been using and been testing out different technologies. There's one called Lately, Late.ly, that you can literally drop a blog post into their website, and they'll just curate all your social media content for you. So then you don't need a social media copywriter. This is being done for you through AI. So I wanted to write this book to, first of all, help professionals, just like all of you, future-proof your careers. Because the strategy behind future-proofing your career is, first of all, making yourself a brand. The same way I've devoted 11 years of my life to building the brand of Carlos Gil, you all have the ability to build brands around yourselves. You see, people seem to think that social media influencers are just these kids that are on YouTube all day or on Instagram doing makeup videos, and that's false. We're all influential. Every single person in this room, every single person has influence. Now, there's varying degrees of influence. I wouldn't expect every single person in this room has millions of followers on social media, but guess what? Within your own communities, where you live and do business, you have influence. Online, the people you're connected to, you have influence as well, even if it's 1, 2, 3, or a handful of people. So future-proofing your career is something that you should really, really start focusing on ASAP. The next step is staying relevant online through the company that you work for. How many of you, by show of hands, actually manage social media at your organizations or somehow work in social media for your organizations? A lot of you. Great. That's actually really, really encouraging. So, like I said before, we're in this giant digital ocean. How do you remain relevant when there's so much noise being made? Well, we're going to get to that, but first I want to ask you this question. Please be completely honest. Who woke up this morning and the first thing that you did was you went to Facebook to see what your favorite brand of all time posted? We have like 2 people. Guess what? I'm going to pick on you. What brand was it? Your own? Okay. You're biased? That doesn't count. Next. I saw someone back there raise their hand. Who is it? Look at the Facebook feed. Thank you. That means we are in a room, a lot of you, there's a lot of people here that use social media in their organizations or their businesses, and not a single person here, before you walked through these doors this morning, went on Facebook to see what your favorite brand posted. Think about that for a moment. But yet there's an expectation that our communities, our constituents, our followers, our customers, there's an expectation that they have to follow us. Well, what reason are you giving them to follow you in the first place? Really stop and think about that. Now, does any person here enjoy being sold to? No. I know I don't. You know, there's a few things that I like kind of cringe when I have to do. I don't like being sold a car. I don't like being sold a house. I don't even like going into the bank nowadays because I feel like they're going to cross-sell me, upsell me, downsell me, right? Even to go to Nordstrom's when I go buy a suit, it's like I already see it. I'm not just going in there to buy the suit. They're going to sell me alterations and the pocket square, the shirt, the shoes, right? I don't like being sold to. So I use social media for one reason and one reason only, and that's to connect with people, to engage. And if I had to poll every single person here, I guarantee you that you don't like being sold to either, and you're probably using social media as a consumer in the same passive manner, like our friends right here. To go on the news feed and see what your friends are doing, or to check up and monitor your brand. Now, once again, social media today is this giant digital ocean. You have platforms like Facebook that have over 2 billion daily active users, 1 billion on Instagram, 600 million on LinkedIn, 300 million on Twitter. You have TikTok that just like exploded overnight. And this is your brand and your social media content in this giant digital ocean right here. Has anyone seen the movie Castaway before with Tom Hanks? We are all the digital equivalent of Tom Hanks in the movie Castaway. Remember that scene when he's like writing help on the beach, right, with the palm trees? We are all Tom Hanks sending SOS signals for help, and guess what? No one is listening. No one's talking back. Maybe there's a very small percentage, but we're like Tom Hanks talking to Wilson in the movie, the volleyball that doesn't talk back. So there's a reason why, ladies and gentlemen, there's a reason why when you go on social media and you post, if you have 1,000 people that follow you, 1,000 people aren't commenting back. And the reason for that is very simple. Social networks themselves are businesses. And social networks themselves are digital advertising platforms. And these businesses are not in business to help you grow your organization, your business for free. They have data that you're trying to leverage to get attention to then drive people back to your organization's website or blog or event or whatever it might be. So because social media itself is noisy, and you're competing against the social networks themselves and everyone else on there that's making noise, You need to find ways to stand out and rise above the noise. That's your challenge. I get that all your organizations, you have different goals. It might be fundraising related. Yes, that's a primary objective of why you're using social media, but beyond that, how you get there is more critical than anything else that you do. Now, with that being said, as marketers, let's take a moment of silence. Because going forward, you need to find ways to rebrand your organization from a social media perspective. If every single time you show up on the scene, you're ending your post with click here, do this, donate, whatever it might be, whatever call to actions you're using, stop. Stop right now. I had the opportunity to speak to several nonprofits in Sarasota, Florida a few weeks ago. And I'm going to tell you what I told them. People don't like being asked for money. Does anyone here like being hit up for money? If y'all don't like being sold to, guess what? You personally don't like being asked for money. Now, what I would advise you is take the same approach. Don't ask your community for anything. You give them the facts. You give them the story. You tell them what it is that you do. You show to them who it is that you serve. And then it's on them if they want to help you out and advocate for you. But what happens is when you lead in a social media post trying to get someone to do something and drive them somewhere, people already are defensive, right? It's just like when you walk into the car dealership, you already become defensive as soon as that salesperson comes over you. You're like, oh man, like, shoot, they saw me, crap, right? Now I gotta talk to this person, tell them why I was here. I just wanna go look at the Toyotas. Same way it happens on social media. Real talk, think of it like that. If you create content that's gonna alienate people, they're not gonna look at it, they're not gonna share it, they're gonna pretend that you don't even exist. How many times have you gone on Facebook and you see videos with millions and millions of views because there's a feel-good story associated with it? I know I see them all the time. 30, 60-second videos, they make you feel good. Makes you want to share. That's what your objective should be. Tell more stories that humanize your brand to inspire others to take action without you telling them to take action. Now, I'm a huge pro wrestling fan. Hopefully, everyone in this room goes out and gets my book, The End of Marketing. Now, my favorite chapter in the book is chapter 3. It's called How to Be Savage AF, like Randy. And I use the comparisons of pro wrestling to business today. And I think as professionals that work in the arts, you're going to appreciate this. There's an element of artistry and theater with everything that we do in marketing. What I'm doing right here is business theater. I'm teaching you while also entertaining you. Because if I just came up here like every other speaker and did death by PowerPoint, y'all would want me to get off the stage faster than I came up here. So think about that for a second. In every single piece of content that you post, how you speak online, there's theater in that. It's scripted business theater. That's what pro wrestling is. It's scripted sports entertainment. What social media marketing is scripted business theater. Now, the reason why I say you have to become a digital savage is because you need to inject personality into what it is that you do. Just showing up and sounding like you had an agency write out your content, that's really lame and that's really boring. But actually putting personality behind when you show up, people are going to feel close and connected to your brand or your organization. That's the key. Because the golden era of traditional marketing and advertising is over. It's been disrupted. People aren't looking at billboards anymore. They're flipping the channel on TV when the commercial comes on. They're flipping the channel on the radio. I'm a consumer that spends money to avoid being advertised to. I have Pandora, Spotify, Apple Music, no commercials, and I pay for it. The same music I can get on one service, I can get on the other two, but I pay for 3 just to have those options. Sirius XM radio, same thing, just to have those options. because I don't like being advertised to. I have YouTube TV at home because they block out the commercials. So you need to think more about how do you evolve in this age where it goes back to what I said before. You're not being perceived as an advertiser. You're not being perceived as asking for anything. You see, the best form of business development or fundraising is you present the opportunity, but you don't actually hard close or sell. In my business, if I meet you, you already know what I do. You know I'm a speaker, I'm an author, I have an agency. It's up to you if you want to do business with me or not. I don't need to be chasing you for you to want to do business with me. I'll connect with you, like I did with Ruby, and I use that example, and organically you see what I do, and you make a determination how I fit into your plans. So the same rules and principles apply with any business, whether you're a not-for-profit organization or you're a corporation. As long as you're showing what you do and the impact that you make to the people that you serve, that's the name of the game. Now, once again, we're getting ready to enter this era, what I refer to as the AI versus humans judgment day. So if you're familiar with like Terminator 2 from back in the day, it might not be on that level, at least I hope not. I hope we're not like fighting physically with robots. But we will get to a point that AI will disrupt our jobs, like I mentioned before. And for any of you creatives or influencers in the room, guess what? You're already competing with artificial intelligence influencers, like Lil Michaela. This girl here on the screen, perceivably, is a 19-year-old influencer from Santa Monica, California. If you look at her Instagram account, she's got 1.6 million followers. She's verified. You see her do actual, like this is the crazy shit, video collaborations with J Balvin. And she's not real. Think about that. I'm not even verified on Instagram. I'm here talking to all of y'all. This is a person that doesn't exist, who's collaborating with celebrities, verified, doing collaborations with Supreme and Gucci and Louis V. So when I see this, I say to myself, damn, I'm glad that, first of all, I'm not in the business of sponsored content. I'm not in the business of making YouTube videos to get paid. The people that are really in for a surprise. Because once you remove the human element and you create the likeness of an influencer, now guess what? You own the IP. You own the personality. You don't have to pay a talent fee. You don't have to run the risk that talent is going to go get a DUI or commit a crime or assault someone. All that risk is stripped out. You look at brands like KFC, this is the new Colonel Sanders. Real talk. If you remember Colonel Sanders, right? They replaced the chubby white guy with the Brad Pitt version of Colonel Sanders. Good-looking, younger dude, has a six-pack tattoo on the side, as a way to rebrand KFC. Now going forward, ladies and gentlemen, every brand, every single company, every single brand, every single not-for-profit will need to make people the faces of their brand. Just like we see Jake and Logan Paul and Kim Kardashian and Kanye and DJ Khaled, and I could go on and on and on. That means every single one of you in this room, your challenge going forward is how do I take a step from behind the curtain and actually show people who runs the social media for the accounts that I use. People care less about connecting with your logo. They want to connect with you as the individual. The reality is that people are brands. People buy from people. People trust other people. You already see it happening with business personalities. You go on Facebook, you go on LinkedIn, you see the Gary V's, Ty Lopez, Mel Robbins of the world. They're selling to you through their content. They're making you feel good in the process. They're teaching you a couple things, but they're selling their brand to you. You look at motivational speakers, your Eric Thomases, your Tony Robbins, your Les Browns. These motivational speakers are selling through their brands to you because they've realized the face itself has more weight and more influence than $1 billion corporation. As I was writing into marketing, I was comparing, like literally going down the list of like Fortune 50 companies. And I was looking at like your Walmarts and Nikes and Starbucks of the world, their social media reach and their engagement is like pennies on the dollar compared to personal brands. Now, that's not to say that your brand's not influential, because it still is. People still talk about you. But that doesn't mean that they're gravitating to social media because they want to hear about you. And the reality is this: because social media is noisy and is cluttered, you need to know your audience. You need to know, where's your audience live? What platforms are they using to engage? These social networks themselves, ladies and gentlemen, are not created equally. You have marketers right now that are speaking about getting on TikTok. For arts organizations, TikTok might make sense. For your local credit union or bank or insurance company, it might not. Because you're speaking to a much younger audience on TikTok than the audience that you're probably trying to sell to or engage. You look at platforms like Facebook, it's a little bit older of a demographic on there now. So if you're trying to reach an older audience, you should probably look into Facebook to grow your presence. LinkedIn, professional social network. YouTube, so where you go humanize your brand, but again, you're also reaching a much younger audience as well. Now, I'd be remiss if I don't share with you what's forthcoming next for all things social, because as marketers, we focus, laser focus, on like the trendy, hot, sexy social networks, and we lose sight of what's forthcoming until it's already popular, and now you've just missed the boat. So don't overlook streaming content, don't overlook YouTube, even YouTube TV from an advertising standpoint. 57% of Americans are streaming TV services. They're taking to YouTube every single day to watch content. You've got TikTok, almost 1 billion users. Again, much younger social network, but because again, we are professionals that are in the arts, this might be a medium that you want to start looking into as a place to humanize your brand from a much younger audience. Then you got Fortnite. The reason why I put Fortnite on here is because even though Fortnite's a video game, video gaming itself has created almost like a cult following through platforms like Instagram and TikTok and even YouTube and Twitch. People like my son, who's 13 years old, are watching other kids play video games. How crazy is that? When I was a kid, I was like the dude that didn't want to sit on the sidelines while friends of mine were playing Madden. I want to be there in the trenches playing as well. Kids now spend hours watching other kids play video games. So you know what you leverage that for in your organizations? Do video game meetups to engage the younger generation, to learn about the arts, to learn about what it is that you do. Because kids are really influential in their own right, and that's the future. Generation Z is the future. They're going to be adults well before we know it. Like, again, in the case of my son, 5 years away from being an adult. So don't overlook the power of Gen Z, is what I'm trying to say to you, and have a presence on the platforms where they are. And then you look at podcasting, Spotify, iTunes. Podcasting is an extremely powerful way to reach an audience, not on social media, but through audio, and then hopefully that audience that consumes your content will feel inspired to take to social media. Now, creating scarcity is what sells more in your kind of traditional consumer marketing B2C. However, when I speak to a lot of not-for-profit organizations, from what I hear, they do either a lot of like one day, 24-hour flash giving, flash fundraising. Recently, I was speaking, like I said before, to a group of not-for-profits that said that like the most fundraising happens like in the last 24 hours. So think about using social media as a vehicle, understanding the psychology of putting a timeline on giving or donating, and maybe start thinking about doing more of like the 24-hour flash donation drives. Now, who's seen over the last couple months these fried chicken sandwich battles take place? All right, since we're here in the South, I want to ask you, Popeyes or Chick-fil-A? Publix chicken. Personally, hey, Publix chicken with a little cafecito afterward, no complaints. No complaints. Look, personally, I'm a Chick-fil-A guy, okay? Chick-fil-A guy. But I've been so amazed to see, and you know, true story, Popeyes is owned by Burger King. Burger King's headquartered here in Miami, not too far from here. I've been amazed to see how Burger King / Popeyes has injected life into the Popeyes brand through the chicken sandwiches. Like, this isn't funny, but yet it's I gotta say it, like, there's literally people that have been killing others, literally, killing others over a chicken sandwich, a piece of bread with fried chicken in it. You know why? Because of this. People want to be cool. The same reason why Fire Festival, this is Ja Rule 9 on stage, the same reason why Fire Festival has, first of all, was an event where people wanted to go to, was because it was cool to say, I'm going to be on an island in the Bahamas hanging out with all these A-list celebrities. People dropping 10 grand just for a selfie. Then Fire Festival doesn't happen, and the documentaries happen, and all of a sudden it's cool to talk about people's failures online. Nah, think about that for a moment. Those are moments. Those are moments in time. So there's something that I've learned from forming a friendship and a business relationship with Ja Rule. And you see the 3 quotes here on the screen from a recent talk that we did in Cleveland. Fire Festival gave the everyday guy a feeling of belonging with the A crowd. Think about what it is that you do. Think about the events that you produce. Is there that cool factor? If there's not, you should think about how do we create a cool factor? That this is the place to be in our city or our town when we do an event. Who's attending that event? Are there any influencers in market that you can invite out to your event and do a meet and greet, do a selfie op? Because when you look at the best forms of marketing today, it's the selfie. You know, it's the branded piece of content like I see right there with the step and repeat, because you're able to show where you're at, right? We're here at a conference on a Saturday, but you're in Miami, which is cool. You're amongst colleagues, it's cool, right? I know, I think it's cool as hell to be able to wake up and say, I'm in Miami getting ready to do a keynote. It's Miami. There's a cool factor in that. So what makes your company cool? Now, this is your social media strategy decoded. You have 4 pillars: content, community, consistency, and conversion. Most people fail miserably at social media marketing because they focus on content, they skip the rest, and they go immediately to conversion. So what I mean by that is they focus on, we need to have dope content, and it needs to sell. And then they miss out on, well, who are you promoting that dope content to? Is there anyone that's even consuming that dope content? And how often are you showing up with that dope content? And are you engaging the people after you post that dope content? You see how this like ebbs and flows? So every single one of these pillars requires its own strategy. And I'm going to break this down succinctly for you. Your content is what people see, feel, react to. It should look cool, feel cool. People should take pride in sharing it. If you look at a Facebook post before it goes out and say, I would never share this to anyone, don't post it. Just save yourself the embarrassment. Don't post it. Because it's better to not have content. It's better to not have content at all than to have content that has very little engagement that makes your organization look poor. And like, I'm not talking about poor like in a financial way, but looks poor that you don't have the community. The next is community itself. The people. It's all about the people. Social media is nothing without people. You depend on people to amplify your content and grow your reach. Then you've got consistency. This is how often you're posting. You don't need to post every day. But guess what you should aim to do every day? Swoop in and have conversations. Then there's conversion, which this is the ROI that we all see, the impressions, the clicks, the donations, the buys, etc. I would not be able to sell a best-selling book if I didn't invest 10 years in building a community and giving people value through content. Same principles apply in your organizations. Facebook itself is a business. And if you're familiar with casino terminology, Facebook is the house. And you're never going to beat the house at their own rules. But once you understand what the house rules are, then you can put yourself in prime position to be in the game and become a savage marketer. So playing by the house rules involves a couple things. 1, spending a little bit of money to amplify your content. 2, keeping users on Facebook versus driving them off. That means when you have a video upload, you upload it on your Facebook page. When you have a blog post, you don't post a link going out to your website, you post in Facebook notes. It also means removing all call to actions altogether. Facebook's algorithm is able to crawl very quickly through automation and know that when you are asking your Facebook community to do something, they're going to charge you for it. Now, we're in this Tinder generation. Let's talk about content for a moment. We're in this Tinder generation where people react to what looks good. So for those of you in the room that, and I'm not going to put anyone on the spot here and ask you if you've ever used Tinder before, so let's just assume here that no one knows what the hell Tinder is. It's a dating app where, dating, I say that very loosely, where people are seeing photos of other people in their newsfeed for them to hopefully meet and mate. Business, ladies and gentlemen, is very much the same when it comes to content marketing. People on Tinder, right, they're kind of shallow, no offense. They're kind of shallow. They're like just swiping through and reacting on what looks good on the surface. Content marketing is the same. When people are scrolling through a newsfeed really fast, within seconds, they're able to determine, does this resonate with me or not? Is this company selling to me or not? Okay? Publix is promoting fried chicken. It looks freaking amazing when Dixie's telling me that DiGiorno pizza's on sale, 2 for $5. What do you think people are going to react to? They're going to react to the fried chicken, right? So start thinking about your content in the same way. Now, with that being said, here's a guide for creative storytelling today. And this is really important. I encourage either take photos of the slide. I'm not sure, will the slides, Ruby, be given out after the conference? Yes? All of you will get this anyways. But you can also write down. Let me break this down for you. The first item for creative storytelling that you need to address is, what is your objective? There's a hook that people should have that they're hanging on to. What's your objective for the stories that you tell? Is it to drive donations? Is it to drive awareness? Is it to build community? What is it? 2, pick your channel. What's the channel that you can get the biggest return on? Meaning you have access to the most people. If you're getting 100 views or less on Snapchat, maybe you think about cutting out Snapchat. Content on Twitter lives on forever, and it's easily searchable. Facebook, even if you don't have a big following, you can still put money behind your post and amplify the reach. Instagram, same thing. Instagram stories, I personally like and enjoy because they're short, but just like Snapchat, they go away. So it's up to you to determine what channel you're on. Next is select your storytellers. Are they employees? Are they fans? Are they donors? Who are they? Then storyboard your content. Your content should have a beginning, a middle, and an end. As I learned years ago, before becoming an award-winning Snapchat storyteller, I learned I had to develop somewhat of a personality if I wanted to get people to see my content. So that meant every morning when I would start my story, I'd say, "What up, Snapchat fam?" to drive and draw people in. Same principles apply as you storytell. And then you want to bring people this natural progression of what you're doing. And then you want to end your story with your call to action then, whatever it is. So I would encourage you to start thinking about using creative storytelling at your own events that you host, when you're out in the community, to actually show, to take users behind the scenes of what it is that you do. Now, have you ever heard the saying, content is king? Anyone ever heard of that? Any marketing guru ever tell you that advice? Well, guess what? I call BS on that. Because content is not king. Content is noise. Community is what's king. Without community, I'm not on this stage right now or have a book out there in the bookstore. Without community, none of you are able to do your jobs effectively because you won't drive donations. You depend on community to keep you alive and breathing in person as well as online. So if you're not using social media to listen to who's speaking about you or the community that you're in, then you're missing the greatest opportunity that exists. Do you want me to tell all of you how I operate as a savage marketer? No? Okay, I'll go to the next slide. Every single morning when I'm sitting down, this is, I don't think I've ever shared this publicly anywhere, so you guys are getting this firsthand. Every single morning when I sit down with my cafecito, around 6 a.m., I go on Twitter and I type in, call for speakers. and I look at every single Twitter account in the last 24 hours that has tweeted call for speakers. And I apply to speak at their events. And I tweet at them directly with a link to my speaker bio page. Then I type in best business book. And then guess what? I go self-promote. And I drop a link to my book, and I form conversation every single day. Guess what? You can all do the same thing. Because the opportunity exists for all of us. When you just sit down and start listening and paying attention to what the community that already exists and is in place is talking about, like let's assume for a second that your organization is in Washington, D.C. You can type in literally Washington, D.C. or run a search on Twitter for people that are tweeting in Washington, D.C. and save that search as a list, and you can just come back to that, either throughout the day or every day, and just swoop in and have conversations with people. It's easy. And what will happen is over time, you'll have, little by little, people support you, gravitate to you, follow you, share your content. But it doesn't happen overnight. So I encourage you to start with one person, two people, and build your community one by one. Like, if there's any guru or infomercial ad that you see on Facebook that's like, hey, I can help you get rich in 30 days or less, that's bullshit. You need a community of people, and you can't automate that. You can't scale that. You need to just go build it one by one. So I encourage you to do this. Spend more time having conversations than posting content. Every single day, you should make it your priority to have conversations digitally speaking. That in itself is a form of content marketing. Now remember, social media is the wild, wild west. There's no rules. There's no governing body here that says that you can't have conversations with people that might be speaking about other organizations similar to yours. And I'm going to give you an example of this. We're going to skip ahead to this right here. Chick-fil-A and Wendy's beefing with each other, no pun intended. Is there anything better than enjoying one of our spicy chicken sandwiches on a Friday? And you have Wendy's swooping in, yes, enjoying one of ours on a Sunday. Ouch. I want to go on a date with Wendy's and take them to a real burger joint, Burger King. Oh, man, Wendy's is savage AF. You got Burger King that swoops back, treat her like the princess she deserves to be. And then Wendy says, if you're looking for a princess, you might want to let it go. Not interested in the frozen beef kingdom. Woo! That is savage AF. And it's cold. I'll share with you, because I know my time is running short, I'll share with you this very, very quick story. 2012, when I got hired by Winn-Dixie, I was much younger in my career. I didn't have the brand that I have now. So my CMO just kind of looked at me as like this social media kid that sits in the cubicle and would like occasionally come and meet with her and go over all these reports. So one day I sit with her and I say, hey, Mary, I went on Twitter. Since we spend all this money to advertise against Publix, I went on Twitter and ran a report. And actually, I wrote this in the marketing, so I'm sure my former boss will appreciate that. Publix, Winn-Dixie, and the word sucks. And guess what? There are some tweets that are pro-Winn-Dixie, saying, I went to Publix, I had a bad experience, they suck, going to Winn-Dixie now. There was other instances where people were like, dogging Winn-Dixie and saying it sucks and they love Publix. That, along with the words cake, there was a lot of times where people would show an affinity for Publix cakes and not Winn-Dixie's. Same thing with service. So I'm like, all right, Mary, check it out. You see all these people here? These are real customers. Why don't we engage them directly and send the people that hate us and love Publix, why don't we send them a $25 gift card that's already preloaded on our loyalty app? So now that's customer acquisition. They're downloading our app to get free $25, and you know that they're not going to spend $25 at a supermarket that's basically going to cover their tax. And she said to us, Carlos, we don't want to poke the bear. And I walked out that day, had my head down. I was like, dang, this really sucks. But someone at some point in my career will get this analogy, that social media is the wild, wild west. And because there are no rules, you can go after anyone. I am surprised, and after reading the end of marketing, this is going to change, because now I'm doing this and telling people to go do it. I'm surprised that right now, Target isn't going on Twitter and engaging with people talking about Walmart. Champ Sports isn't going on Twitter and engaging with people talking about Nike. Think about that. That's lazy marketing. Because the expectation that's been built is that you're going to come to me and see my content because I'm Nike, not I'm going to go to you because you're Joe Schmo out there at LA Fitness working out, wearing a pair of my shoes. And that is what needs to change. So who holds influence for your organization? It's very simple. You all do. Every single one of you holds influence. So your focus needs to be less about identifying influencers, but creating your own influencers. Each one of you storytelling on behalf of your organization. So it starts from within. It's your employees. It's all of you. And then there's your customers, which in some cases might be donors. So think about all the people that you serve on an annual basis. Who are they? Get them to record a little short video of how your organization has made an impact in their life or their career, however it might be. Those are the heroes of your brand. Now, the role of a marketer is going to change. I talked a little bit about AI. Going forward, you will be a data analyst. You will be an AI program developer. But more importantly, you will be a brand spokesperson. Now, before I wrap up, because I know I'm out of time, I want to encourage you to message me. This is my phone number here on the screen, 646-846-1922, with any questions that you might have. I'm also going to be signing books after this, so if you have any questions from this presentation, feel free to find me out there. I'm a big hip-hop fan, big DJ Khaled fan. And if you're from the 305, I would assume that you are too. In fact, this entire year before writing the End of Marketing, the name of my talk was What Marketers Can Learn About Social Media from DJ Khaled and Drake. And there was like 7 key principles that I'm going to give you on one slide. Because this is what I know to be true about the keys to success in social media. What I love about DJ Khaled is even though he's not the most eloquent speaker, he's entertaining. People follow DJ Khaled because he's real and he's relatable. I cannot tell you how many times that I've gone to a C-suite executive and said, your brand needs to be more like DJ Khaled and less like a brand, and they look at me like if I'm absolutely batshit crazy. But the truth is that selling products in social media doesn't work if you don't have a community, and if you're not real, if you're not relatable, and if you're not giving value. So DJ Khaled, don't think he doesn't sell for one moment. He's selling you on the brands that he's a partner in. He's selling you on the brands that endorse him. But he's doing it in a very native, organic way. So the first key to success is why are you on social media? Don't play yourself. You don't need to be on every single social network. But you should be on the 1 or 2 where you can get the biggest ROI. 2 is don't think like a marketer. Think like a fan. Think like a donor. Think like a consumer. Like I said before, if you wouldn't engage with the content that you're pushing out, don't expect anyone else to either. You have to be your biggest fan before you get other people to be your fan. 3 is who are you trying to reach? The reality is you cannot appeal to everyone. You can't. 4 is social media never sleeps. So don't lose sight of the fact that while you're away, there are people that are still on Twitter, they're still on social media, they're talking about your brand, they're talking about the community that you're in. You should make it a priority when you clock back in. Just like I said to you, when I'm sitting with my cafecito every morning, I'm looking on Twitter to see who's talking about speaking opportunities within the last 24 hours. That's because when I left Twitter that day before, there were still people that were engaging and creating content. And it's my objective as a savage marketer to uncover those opportunities that might exist. 5 is create relevant content that your audience wants. This is the major key, not what you want. We know what you want. I know what you want already. But what does your audience want? Are you motivating them? Are you inspiring them? Are you educating them? Your content should fall into one of those 3 key categories. Motivate, educate, and inspire. And you can do that through creative storytelling. You can tell that by showcasing the great individuals that your organization serves. But guess what? Loyalty is extremely important. If you expect to build advocacy and build a loyal donor community, then you need to be loyal to them. That means listening to them when they write to you. And then 7, once again, community is king, not content. Content's queen. But without community, all you have is noise. So because we are here at a conference with professionals that work in the arts, and I'm technically a business artist, as an author and speaker, I'm going to leave you with this quote, because I'm a big rap and hip-hop fan. The great philosopher known as Jay-Z reminds us all the time, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. And I say this because all these social networks, all these numbers represent something at the end of the day. Whether you get one retweet, one like, one comment, they represent something, and that's people. We depend on people. We always have, and we always will. We depend on people in order to grow our organization. So with that, I want to thank you for your time. And I want to once again thank Ruby Lopez Harper and thank Americans for the Arts for inviting me out here to the 305. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.